The station always smelled like burnt coolant and broken promises. Jace Forel muttered something less than poetic as he banged his head, again, on the undercarriage of a shuttle that had last seen proper maintenance when the galaxy was still debating faster-than-light travel. He slid out from beneath it, grease in his hair, a spanner in one hand and a half-eaten protein bar in the other, trying to remember if lunch had happened yet, or if he just dreamt it during a plasma leak. Above him, Orson's drift spun lazily at the edge of the Zetra line, a quiet, near-forgotten hub where wayward haulers, disgraced traders, and people with outstanding warrants came to disappear. Jace wasn't running from anything, not unless you counted student loans and 2 failed marriages, but he liked the quiet. Things didn't explode often. When they did, it was usually his fault. So when Dock 3 lit up with emergency inbound signals and the outer hull shook like a canned bean at warp, he blinked and squinted at the console. The vessel that appeared on his monitor was sleek, damaged, and very much not standard issue. It looked like someone had tried to land a dagger sideways through the heart of a nebula. Elegant, smoking, a mess. "Well, you're either royalty or a really bad driver," Jace muttered, grabbing his jacket with one hand and a fire extinguisher with the other. The hangar bay hissed open. The ship hovered in like it was too proud to admit it was falling apart. He admired the thing. It had curves like an artisan's blade, but the port thruster was coughing out sparks and the dorsal plates looked chewed. Probably pirates, or space debris, or maybe someone's pet asteroid had gotten too playful. As he approached, the ramp hissed open, steam swirling around the edges like it had been choreographed for dramatic effect. Jace frowned. Nobody staged entrances out here. Then she walked down. She was tall, wrapped in a dark traveling cloak that shimmered like stardust under cheap station lighting. Her face was shadowed, but her posture was impossibly straight, like she was used to being taller than whatever problem stood before her. Her hands were gloved and her voice, when it came, was smooth enough to make the station's lights dim in response. "My vessel requires repairs. I was told this station services passing craft." Jace blinked. I do. The station does. It's a one-man operation. You're looking at the chief engineer, janitor, bartender, and part-time stand-up comedian. She didn't laugh. Not exactly. Her lips twitched like they were considering the idea. "Your vessel's seen better days," he said, circling the ship. "Was this damage due to weaponry or aggressive docking?" "A meteor shower," she said evenly. "Right, one with laser cannons." Silence. He gestured for her to follow. "I'll need access to the systems. Power grid's fried, stabilizers are twitchy, and that thruster's about 2 hours from a critical hissy fit." She followed him without comment. Her eyes moved constantly, cataloging, calculating. Her ears were hidden beneath the cloak's hood, but every so often a subtle twitch gave her away. Not human, probably not dangerous, hopefully not allergic to bad jokes. As he opened the engine panel, steam hissed out and nearly singed his eyebrows off. "Well, at least the engine still has a sense of humor." She tilted her head. "You speak to machines." "Only the ones that pretend to listen." Hours passed. Jace worked, humming half-remembered tunes from ancient synth bands while rerouting power through damaged cores. The ship systems were elegant, alien, and so advanced it made his diagnostic tools sulk with inferiority. He had to patch circuits with recycled wiring and a repurposed hollow toaster. "You're remarkably calm for someone flying a ship held together with prayer and duct tape," he said, glancing at her. She raised an eyebrow. It was the nearest port within range. The choice was calm or combustion. "Solid logic, I respect that." He handed her a pair of tools and instructed her to hold them steady while he adjusted the grav coupler. When the ship lurched unexpectedly, Jace fell backward onto a crate of hydrospanners with a groan. "Are you injured?" "Only my pride, and possibly my spleen. Jury's still out." He waved her off and stood. She offered him a hand. Her touch was cool, firm, not quite human. He didn't ask. Later he cooked dinner. Well, cooked was generous. He heated 2 packs of station standard instant noodles and handed her one. She sniffed it suspiciously. "It's food," he promised. "Mostly." She poked at it. "It's fluorescent." "That's the spice. I think it's supposed to be lime or vengeance, not sure." She took a bite, blinked, took another. "It's unique." "I aim to please." After the meal she asked him questions. About the station, about humans, about why he worked alone. "Got tired of people," he said. "Machines are easier, they lie less." She nodded but said nothing. That night he gave her a cot in the unused maintenance bay. She accepted without thanks but paused at the doorway. "You did not ask who I am. I figured if you wanted to tell me, you would. That or you're on the run from a royal scandal involving a space giraffe and a galactic treaty violation." Her face remained neutral, but her voice had a flicker of amusement. "Good night, Jace Forel." He watched her go, rubbing his neck, wondering why her voice stayed in his head like a forgotten melody. Outside, among the stars, a ship blinked into existence on the edge of the system. It did not broadcast identification. It did not respond to hails. Inside Jace's repair bay, the cloaked woman lay still, but her eyes were open. She stared at the ceiling, and beneath her cloak her long ears twitched in thought. The station's coffee machine was growling again. Jace stared at it like a man who had lost a war he never signed up for. The device, a Frankenstein hybrid of 3 different models, vibrated ominously while letting out sounds that no beverage-producing appliance should be legally allowed to make. "Look," he muttered, pointing a wrench at it, "we've talked about this. You either make coffee or you don't. I'm not emotionally equipped to deal with another betrayal today." From the far corner of the workshop, the cloaked woman watched silently. She had spent the night lying as still as an unplugged android, though Jace swore he'd caught her moving once, adjusting the pillow with a speed that suggested either royal etiquette or military training. Possibly both. He punched the coffee button. The machine hissed, buzzed, and then made a noise not unlike a very angry goose before spewing something tar-black into a cup. He handed it to her. "Breakfast of champions." She took the cup cautiously, sniffed it, and arched an eyebrow. "You've never had coffee?" he asked, half surprised. "It's humanity's second greatest invention." "What is the first?" "Cheese, but the jury's still out." She sipped, paused, and then winced as if she'd swallowed molten gravel. "It tastes like burned soil." "Perfect, that means it's working." He slurped his own with the enthusiasm of a man whose taste buds had long since surrendered. "Right. We've got about 4 hours before the fusion coupler reaches optimal phase. That gives us time to reroute the internal power junction and maybe convince the gravity stabilizer to stop listing like it's drunk." The Queen said nothing, but followed him to the ship. Jace worked while explaining what each wire did, what each system controlled, and why half of it was probably illegal in at least 3 sectors. "You have no idea how this vessel functions," she noted. "I'm insulted," he replied, holding 2 sparking cables like twin snakes. "I have several ideas, most of them bad." She crouched beside him, pulled back a panel he hadn't noticed, and rerouted the sequence with 3 taps. The ship's hum stabilized. Jace blinked. "Okay, fine, you're hired." She tilted her head. "For what position?" "Assistant to the assistant chief, of pretending I know what I'm doing." It was the closest she'd come to smiling yet. As they worked, the ship systems became less cryptic. Jace noticed they didn't use standard circuitry. Rather, it was some kind of biotech interface, lightly pulsing as if alive. She avoided direct answers, and he, respecting the silent rule of unasked questions, didn't push. During a break, he produced lunch, vacuum-sealed synth sandwiches and a suspiciously fizzy blue drink labeled only "Thirst Be Gone." He handed her one. "This used to be meat," he said. "Now it's nostalgia." She peeled back the wrapper. "What kind of meat?" "That's part of the fun." While they ate, a long-range signal blipped across the outer monitors. Jace squinted at it. Probably just another lost hauler, or someone trying to sell galactic extended warranties. Ignore it. She didn't answer. Her eyes lingered on the blip longer than necessary. Back in the engine room, Jace introduced her to his favorite tool. A cracked, heat-warped plasma calibrator named Susan. "She's temperamental," he said. "Gets the job done if you whisper compliments. You name your tools. Only the ones that break my heart." The Queen handled Susan with effortless precision. Jace watched, scratching his head. "You sure you're not secretly from a mechanic colony?" "I've had training. Must have been a heck of a workshop." She paused as if weighing something. Then, "We were expected to master all foreign technologies. That normal where you're from?" "No." He waited for elaboration, got none, and decided to let it go. Later, a minor fusion leak set off the fire suppression system. Foam sprayed across the entire bay like a sneeze from a giant squid. Jace staggered out, soaked, coughing and flailing at a hovering cleaning drone. "Well," he said, spitting bubbles, "at least we know the emergency systems still work." She emerged with a shield of pure light shimmering around her, untouched by the foam. Jace blinked. "Is that standard issue where you're from?" "Personal shielding system," she said. "Neat. I've got duct tape and a helmet made from an old soup can." She looked at him. "Is it functional?" "It kept my brain from getting microwaved in a plasma vent once." "Then it's sufficient." As the day wore on, Jace grew more curious. She was graceful but not showy, clever but reserved, always scanning. Like someone used to commanding, used to watching her words as though each syllable might trigger a war. That night, he handed her another packet of spicy noodles. "I hope this doesn't violate some intergalactic dietary code." "It burns." "That means it's working." They sat on crates beneath a half-disassembled navigation module. Stars blinked beyond the hangar's glass dome. The signal on the console blipped again, closer. He glanced at it. "If that's another ship, I might have to charge for parking." She remained quiet. "Look," he said, leaning back, "you don't have to tell me who you are. I've met smugglers, bounty hunters, runaway brides, and one guy who swore he was a sentient cloud in disguise. You're not the weirdest visitor I've had." She turned toward him. "What was the cloud's name?" "Kevin. He still owes me fuel." She laughed. It was short, genuine, unexpected. Jace grinned. "See, that's the trick. Laugh at the universe before it gets a chance to implode on you." "I'll consider it." He stood, stretched, and headed to his bunk. "Get some rest. Tomorrow, we try not to blow anything up." She remained, staring at the stars. Out past the asteroid belt, the signal continued its silent approach. Inside the alien vessel, a small status light turned red. The Queen watched it flicker, and for the first time since landing, she frowned. The coffee machine exploded at 08:17 station time. Jace hadn't even had the chance to insult it properly when it belched a geyser of boiling sludge into the air, showering the brake corner in steaming droplets and making the cleaning drone scream in binary before retreating into the wall. "Well," Jace muttered, shaking brown foam from his sleeve, "guess we're skipping foreplay today." The cloaked woman emerged from the corridor, just in time to see Jace hurl the smoldering coffee pot into the recycling chute with dramatic flair. Her head tilted slightly. That machine was unstable. "Like most of my exes," Jace said, "but it made good coffee. Mostly. Sometimes. Okay, it was more of a threat than a beverage, but it had personality." She didn't respond, though the corner of her mouth did that subtle twitch thing again. He wiped his hands on a rag that looked like it had been through 3 reactor fires and gestured toward the hangar. "Power systems are holding stable. Your ship's AI seems to be warming up to me. I got it to stop hissing whenever I approach." She responded to your neural interface. "Well, no, but she played music, something orchestral. Might have been a threat or a welcome. It's hard to tell with royalty." Silence. Jace paused, then squinted. Was that weirdly accurate? She turned without a word and strode toward the vessel. He followed, adjusting his toolkit strap and mentally reviewing the repairs they still had left. Auxiliary flight stabilizers, the portside coolant regulator, and whatever weird energy-sapping anomaly kept tripping the internal systems every time he tried to sync them with his station tools. They entered the ship. The air inside always felt different, cooler, sharper, like breathing logic and silk at once. The walls weren't just metal, they pulsed faintly, as if the ship had a heartbeat and wasn't particularly thrilled to have a mechanic poking around its innards. You ever consider upgrading your interior lighting? Jace asked, tapping a low wall console. Everything here glows like a meditation chamber designed by someone with a god complex. The design calms the pilot, she said. Got it. So glowing blue equals serenity. What does red mean? Mild panic or total galactic meltdown? Depends on the situation. He stared at her. Again, that's disturbingly specific. She crouched beside the coolant regulator. Her fingers danced over the panel, bypassing his crude patchwork to expose a layer of tech that looked like it had been woven instead of manufactured. She adjusted 3 circuits with a motion that felt more like a command than a repair. Jace squatted beside her. You ever going to tell me where you're from? She didn't answer. Let me guess. Advanced civilization, long ears, imperial overtones. You left home because politics got messy, and now you're flying around in stealth mode, pretending to be a regular traveler. Nailed it. No response. He leaned closer. Come on. I've fixed enough ships to recognize when I'm dealing with royal hardware. This thing runs on dignity and passive. You're talkative today. I'm talkative every day. It's part of the charm. They worked side by side in silence after that, interrupted only by Jace muttering occasional encouragement to the ship like it was a stubborn pet. After 2 hours and an improvised rerouting of the Gravcore housing, which involved chewing gum, an old dental probe, and mild prayers, the stabilizers hummed into balance. Jace whooped. That's what I'm talking about. Smooth as a politician's apology. He turned to her, arms wide. Admit it, you're impressed. She blinked slowly. You used gum. Premium orbit-grade spearmint, only the best. I've seen children construct more stable solutions using mud. Well, I aim to exceed toddler-level craftsmanship by at least 15%. She didn't smile, but her voice was lighter. The system is holding. He patted the wall. She's a fighter. She. Ships are always she. It's a mechanic thing. Why? Because they're smarter than us, always slightly angry, and refuse to explain what we did wrong. A small, choked sound escaped her. Jace froze. Wait, was that a laugh? No, I think that was a laugh. You're mistaken. It was a royal snort. She stood and walked away. He followed. Come on, that counts. I'm putting it on the wall tally. There is no tally. There is now. 1 laugh, 0 full names, and at least 3 accidental royal slip-ups. She paused in the corridor. What makes you so certain I'm royal? Everything, he said. Your posture, the way you speak, the ship. The fact that you've only eaten noodles and protein bricks, but still look like you own a throne made of starlight. She stared at him for a moment that stretched too long to be comfortable. Then she said, there are worse things to be mistaken for. He grinned. See, you didn't deny it. Neither did I confirm it. Close enough. Back on the station, a soft alarm pinged on the outer sensor grid. Jace ignored it. He was too busy polishing the calibration tools while humming some old Earth tune about rocket fuel and heartbreak. But she didn't ignore it. She slipped back to her ship that night, alone, and brought up a secure interface only she could access. The signal had moved closer. No transponder, no ID, but the energy signature was familiar. Pale blue runes flickered to life along the edge of the interface. A map unfurled in midair, showing the drift station as a single blinking dot in a sea of darkness. She watched, waited, then whispered, not yet. Behind her, the ship purred quietly, almost protectively. Back in the station's mess, Jace was trying to fix the coffee machine again. The cleaning drone hovered nearby, flashing caution symbols. He sighed. All right, Susan II, let's see if you can survive one more day in this madhouse. He reached for the power cord. The coffee machine sparked, hissed, and promptly launched a puff of smoke into the air. Jace groaned. That's it. I'm declaring war. The drone beeped in agreement. The door to Dock 3 slammed open at 2:43 Standard Time. Jace sat bolt upright on the couch in his workshop, an old blanket tangled around his legs and a wrench clutched in one hand like a security blanket. He blinked blearily toward the corridor and groaned. If this is about unpaid docking fees, tell the station AI I'll bake it another muffin. The cloaked woman appeared in the doorway. Her voice was sharper than usual. We have visitors. Jace rubbed his eyes. Is this one of those metaphorical visitors, like existential dread, or is someone actually outside? She turned, leading the way. He followed, tugging on his boots and grabbing his old plasma pistol from the wall hook, even though it hadn't been charged since the station poker incident of cycle 224. If this is another bored pirate looking to trade in counterfeit neutronium, I'm not sharing my snacks this time. The station's outer sensors were flickering. One contact untagged just outside comms range. Not broadcasting. Not approaching, just watching. That's not creepy, Jace said. Definitely not the start of a horror sim. They haven't responded to hails, she said. And their energy signature matches one used by the Galaxy. Sounds made up and mildly threatening. They are bounty contractors, specialists in retrieval and elimination. Lovely, so old friends. She didn't answer. Okay, we'll call that a maybe. He adjusted the sensors, frowned, then tapped the screen hard. This can't be right. They've got phase cloak plating. That stuff's banned, and expensive, and rude. They're not here to trade. Right, because Galaxy-class assassins are famously bad at bartering. Jace looked at her. You still want to pretend you're just a traveler with a very fancy coat and a ship that thinks in 5 dimensions. She sighed. Then she reached up and lowered the hood. The ears unfolded first, long, graceful, tapered at the tips like the wings of a predatory bird. Her skin shimmered faintly under the station lights, not metallic, but not quite biological either. Her eyes, when they met his, were deep violet with a starburst of silver near the pupils. Jace whistled. Well, that explains the dramatic entrances and the glowing ship. Your royalty, let me guess, escaped heir, runaway queen. Politically inconvenient twin. I am Aerolith of the House Darian, first of my name, voice of the Sapphire Crown. Jace blinked, so option 2. She stepped toward the console. I left my empire in secrecy. There was unrest in the throne world, too many voices, too many intentions. I needed to see the edge again, to remember the silence of the stars. And instead you found me, local idiot repairman. Man who argued with a coffee machine for 20 minutes this morning. It was entertaining. Hey, it tried to eat my wrench. They stared at the sensor feed. The contact remained. Still no movement, still no signals, just quiet menace. So, what's the plan, Your Majesty? You want to hide in the air ducts while I distract them with interpretive dance and questionable pasta. No, I want to prepare. For what? She turned toward him. For battle. Right, I was afraid you'd say that. They met the Galaxy at Dock 2. 3 figures stepped through the pressurized gate. Tall, armored, helmets sealed. One of them had a weapon that looked suspiciously like a spinal cannon modified for close quarters, which was both impractical and deeply concerning. Jace stood beside Aerolith, his old plasma pistol buzzing weakly in his hand. I'm starting to feel underdressed, he muttered. The lead Galaxy spoke. Its voice was filtered, mechanical. Aerolith of Darian. You are to be taken into custody under royal directive. Come willingly or face termination. Jace raised a hand. Hi, I'd like to opt out of the termination plan, thanks. Can we negotiate over snacks? The Galaxy ignored him. One raised a scanner. Human interference, irrelevant. Rude. Aerolith stepped forward. Her cloak fell back, revealing armor that shimmered into place over her shoulders, light-borne plating that shimmered between matter and energy. A crown of light flickered briefly above her head before fading. I no longer answer to the throne, she said. You will not take me. The lead Galaxy raised a weapon. Jace threw his wrench. It bounced off the Galaxy's helmet with a clang that was more comedic than damaging. The Galaxy hesitated. What was that? A distraction, Jace said, as he dove for the control panel and slapped the emergency gravity toggle. The dock tilted suddenly. The Vyerxy staggered. Aerolith moved like liquid lightning, her hands slicing through the air, generating blasts of compressed force that sent one bounty hunter crashing into a wall. Jace crawled toward the fire suppression panel. Come on, be the button that floods the room with foam and not the one that opens the outer doors. He hit it, foam exploded everywhere. Aerolith vanished in the cloud. Jace popped his head up, spat bubbles, and screamed as a Vyerxy lunged through the foam. Then a glowing blade of energy swept down, severing the hunter's weapon and knocking the figure backward. Aerolith stepped through the mist, her blade dissolving back into light. Remind me never to annoy you, Jace said, wide-eyed. The last Vyerxy hissed something in a language Jace didn't understand, then tapped its wrist and vanished in a shimmer of teleport energy. Aerolith stood still, breathing slow, measured. Jace sat in the foam, coughing. Well, that went about as badly as I expected. She turned toward him. Are you hurt? Just my ego. He looked up at her. You know, if you told me you were being hunted by interstellar mercenaries with cloaking tech and no sense of humor, I might have installed a few more automated turrets. I didn't expect you to help. Lady, I barely know how to help myself. But I fix things, it's what I do. Ships, machines, occasionally awkward silences. She stared at him, then held out her hand. He took it. Behind them, the ship hummed in approval. Above them, the station's long-range sensors lit up again. More were coming. Jace stood in the engine bay, dripping wet, covered in foam, holding a broken plasma pistol and a half-melted wrench. The coffee machine had exploded again. The Vyerxy had been driven off. The station's lights flickered like they were trying to send out a distress poem. It was a morning like any other, if any other included royal fugitives and near-death via mercenaries. Aerolith stood across from him, perfectly composed, faintly glowing, slightly annoyed at the foam in her boots. I believe your station is compromised, she said. Jace snorted. You noticed. What gave it away? The external damage, the dead mercs, or the fact that our coffee machine now brews with fire? She looked around the bay. We need to leave. Oh, now you want to leave. After 3 days of refusing to admit your space royalty. After letting me feed you noodles. After my emotional bond with your ship's AI. Fine, but I'm bringing the wrench. You're not coming. Oh, that's adorable. You think I'm letting you run off into deep space alone, while Galaxy-class bounty hunters play hide-and-seek with your crown? Jace. Nope, do Jace me. I helped fix your ship, dodged assassins, and nearly sacrificed my last clean pair of socks. We're in this together now. I'm part of the rebellion or revolution or space soap opera, whatever it is. Her eyes softened slightly. You'll be hunted. I was already hunted, mostly by debt collectors, but they're vicious. She stepped closer. My people don't understand humans. Neither do I. That's what makes us fun. There are protocols. Break M. There are rules. Rewrite M. There's danger. Jace grinned. I've seen your noodle's face. You're braver than you think. She looked at him for a long moment, then sighed. An elegant, reluctant sigh that sounded like the kind of thing you do when you've accepted an alliance you didn't ask for but secretly wanted. The station AI chirped farewell with a passive-aggressive message about unpaid maintenance logs as Aerolith's ship lifted from Dock 3. Jace sat in the co-pilot's chair, still trying to figure out which buttons did what. So, do I get a royal title? He asked. Aerolith adjusted the controls. You want a title? Absolutely. Something dramatic like Rainclorid or Duke of Duct Tape. Mechanic Prime. I'll take it. The ship jumped, stars blurred, space bent. The universe held its breath. They landed on the edge of the Keldari Vale, a starfield known for eating survey vessels and returning their black boxes filled with classical music and unanswered questions. A perfect place to disappear. Or regroup. On the private channel, Aerolith spoke to someone, low tones, clipped words, urgent, commanding. Jace didn't ask questions, not this time. Instead, he fixed the fusion coupling. Again. It groaned like an old man with a bad back, but it held. Later, she approached him in the engineering alcove. He was wrist-deep in the ship's gravity coil, humming off-key. "You've adapted." He shrugged. "It's basically like working with a jealous toaster that occasionally tries to electrocute me. My people would never understand you. Your people need better hobbies. I want to return to your throne, to change it." Jace paused. That's big talk from someone who got stunned by a noodle packet on day one. "I remember." You made a face. "I did not." He smiled. "You did. I'm honored to be the first human to mildly poison an alien queen." She leaned against the wall. "You've shown me things my tutors never could. Humor, improvisation, the ability to repair an interstellar drive system using snack wrappers." Jay stood. "So what now?" "You go back, take the throne, change everything, and I stay behind fixing cargo haulers and being yelled at by appliances." She looked at him, then held out her hand. "Come with me." He blinked. "As what?" "Advisor, mechanic. Bridge between empires." "Do I get a royal uniform?" "You ruin it within a day." "I want my own bathroom." "No, I'll think about it." He took her hand. 1 year later, across the stars, the court of